Welcome to the Liberty Beacon Rant. And this is another show in the continuation of the series, The Four Weapons of Mass Destruction, Humanity May Not Survive. And I'm joined, as I always am, by the lovely and very intelligent Paula Mathers. How are you today, Paula?
I'm fine, Roger. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, but see, you're fibbing here because we
It's great
barely
to be
got
here.
on the air tonight.
And I was panicking.
And you were in a frazzle. But as usual, you troopered right through it and got everything up and running in less than 2 minutes late. So I am so proud of you. You always come through, girl. You really do.
I try.
You do. And you're very much appreciated.
Thank
So,
you.
as I was saying, this is a continuation of the series. And last week we started into the topic GMOs. And as everybody knows who has been listening to this series, we had originally said it was going to be a 6-part series with a intro, which we've already done, and then one show for each one of the topics, which are perpetual warfare, GMOs, vaccines, and chemtrails. But after doing a little searching, I realized, and I told the audience last week, that there is just way too much information here to restrict this to a 6-part series in which 2 of them are a wrap-up and an intro, which gives us 4 one-hour periods to go over each one of these topics. That's insanity. It cannot be done. First off, each and every one of these topics has way too much information. And although we do not go seriously into depth on any one of these topics, just skimming the surface takes more than an hour, because there is so much involved with each one of these topics. Now, we've already started on GMOs. I had given Paula 5 or 6 links last week that we were going to go over during the show. We got through 1. So that should tell you how involved these topics are. This might be a 12-part series. And I'm not going to restrict it because we will cover the information that needs to be covered. And once we get through with GMOs, which I'm sure we're not going to finish tonight, and this will be the 2nd show we've done on it, it might be a 4-part series in itself, or a sub-series. So tonight's show, Paula, if you've got the link, tonight's show is based on an article that I wrote that's called The GMO Triad of Evil: Food, Biosphere, and Humanity. And again, this is where we discuss the generalities. Now, you do have some links here, and I also included a short article on human genetic modification, which I attached to the base of my intro, or my preface. And this is very interesting reading, and we'll go over this as part of the show tonight. But I strongly urge each and every one of you, okay, if you do not find enough in-depth information in the links that we provide you, Paula, what am I about to say?
Google it. I couldn't unmute my mic for the life of me. I couldn't do it.
That's okay.
Google it. If you don't agree, Google it.
If you don't agree with what I say, Google it. Even if you agree and you want more in-depth information, Google it. We always give links, and links are either at the bottom as a actual link, or if you see the blue highlighted portions of an article, that is also an active link. You can click on that to get more information. So again, last week, what we went over was, I really enjoyed the show last week. As a matter of fact, by the time I got off the show, I had, and it's cold here in Montana this time of the year, and I was wearing a sweater and 2 shirts, and I was all the way down to my t-shirt. That's how hot I was. Tonight, as I told you, each and every show builds on the last. Tonight we talk a little bit more about the evils as they not only apply to the food we eat, which was the general topic last week, but the other areas where GMOs are intruding into our lives and our futures. So if you just look at the topic, the triad of evil, food, biosphere, and humanity, and each and every one of these is something that will seriously affect the health and the future of humanity. If the biosphere collapses, humanity collapses. Because it is the biosphere that allows us to function as we do and to live and to propagate as we do on this planet. Without a biosphere, basically what you have is something like the surface of the moon. You cannot survive on the surface of the moon. We might have an atmosphere, but without plants to regenerate the oxygen in the atmosphere, how long before it becomes unbreathable? And if we change humanity to the point where we're all the same, or we take the diversity out of our genetic structure, then what some scientists are screaming about is we remove that diversity, we remove what makes us special and allows humanity to propagate. So we look at the extinction of humanity. So either through the food that's poisoning us, the biosphere that is being actually poisoned, and humanity, which, who the hell gave these people the right to play God? When you start to change humanity into what you believe humanity should be, give me another way to describe it. You have decided that you know better than God does. Now, I am not a religious person, as in structured religion. But I do, in fact, believe that there is an intelligence to the universe and that we're not an accident. And if this being, whomever this being may be, is intelligent enough to create a life as diverse as humanity, who the hell are we to decide we know more than he does? Or it does, or she does? This really, really angers me. And for all those who have just jumped in or chimed in for the first time, you can always tell when my anger is at its best because I stutter and I cannot find words. And usually Paula will tell you I'm never at a lack for words.
That's true.
This is the level of anger this topic instills in me. Anyway, let's start into this because I've got 15 links to 15 different articles that have been written, and I don't want this series to be 15 parts or just for GMOs. So let's go forward, okay? We're going to talk about the 3 issues, and we're going to try and delve into each one of them, again, not deeply, but enough so that I can stimulate your interest to do some further research. Because some of the things we say sound outrageous to people who are not aware of what's going on. It's like, yeah, right. Listen to the crap he's putting out. Are you kidding me? But as Paula and anybody else who listens to the show will tell you, I might say things loudly, but I don't exaggerate them.
That's why it's called a rant.
I try very, very hard to stick to the script. And it's not a written script. It's a script set down by facts and research that the Liberty Beacon Project has done to present this information to you. And just because I say it at the threshold of pain to those who's listening doesn't make it any less relevant or any less true. And if you don't believe it, Google it. Anything I say, if I found the research or the material that I've used for my research, so can you. We who are in the know constantly rail against genetically modified organisms, GMOs. We are awake and aware through our constant search for knowledge. This is what I am saying on this subject. We're also painfully aware, and yeah, you can also tell when I start to get angry because my voice cracks. I sound like a schoolboy with his in a vice. We are also painfully aware that the science has no long-term credibility. When Monsanto puts a study forward, it's a 90-day study. We talked last week about research that was done using long-term studies on rats, 3 generations. When Monsanto or one of their buddies in the biotech industry puts a study out, it is a 90-day study. How the hell can you tell me if a rat is sterile after the 2nd or 3rd generation if you study it for 90 days? Rats don't have 3 generations in 90 days. So their information is predicated on short-term studies which only give the results thereafter. And this is an industry that is self-policing. The CDC and every other alphabet soup that they've got conned or bought and paid for expect them to do the studies and submit their results. Why is it that their results match nothing you see in independent studies, whether it's studies done in Russia, studies done in the UK, studies done in France, even some studies done in this country? Why are 800 scientists screaming at the top of their lungs, over 800, almost 830, and signing petitions saying GMOs are dangerous? We need to stop proliferating them. We need to stop growing them. We need to pull them because they are dangerous to the biosphere and dangerous to the health of humanity in general. These are educated people. They're not some yokel like me sitting out in the middle of Montana in a little house basically on the prairie where the closest town is almost an hour away. If I know this information, how the hell can they possibly not know this information? They do. And they do their damnedest to keep it away from the mass majority of the public. It's not working. 93% of this population in the United States wants, and Google that number, 93% wants their food labeled. We had someone who ran for president who promised us one of his objectives would be to get food labeled because people deserve the right to know what they're eating. He's done 180 degrees out of exactly what he said. And for those who don't understand that, it means the exact opposite. And we went over that last week, so I won't rehash that. So we're painfully aware that the self-police science, that the government, the FDA, the CDC, and everybody else who is charged with our protection, protecting our health, the studies presented to them have no long-term credibility. None. They're crap. More research and studies are published daily, providing the extreme detrimental health effects of organisms on humanity, and the long-term ramifications are still unrealized. As much research as these independent researchers have done, each and every one of them at the end of the study ends it with usually a statement that goes like this: and more study is required. Yet the proliferation of this crap continues, and it accelerates. There is another biotoxin that was just approved for DuPont to grow another crop. Now, that's what they're going to use to keep it pest-free. And yet, and this is another show, so I won't delve deeply into it, but yet the CDC comes right out and says that the chemical they're going to use to keep it pest-free is a probable carcinogen. Let me explain the word probable to you. If I say possible, that means more study is required because we really don't have enough to base an answer on. If you use the word probable, especially if you're the government, known to understate and hide the facts, probable means you can bet your sweet ass it is. It's a carcinogen. Or they never would have said that to start with. They never would have mentioned it. They're covering their butts. Probable means it could very well be. Look up the word probable. Go to Wikipedia and put the word probable in. So when our government says this toxin that has been approved to grow soy by, I'm pretty sure it's DuPont, which is another biotech company, is a probable carcinogen, what they're telling you is steer clear of it. It's going to give you cancer. But yet it was approved behind our backs, quietly, no mention in the mainstream media, no mention in any publications that this approval was done. But yet the Liberty Beacon Project found an article related to it and published it. Oh my God! Is the Liberty Beacon more credible than the government? You bet your ass we are. And anybody who doesn't think so, when's the last time the government did a show like this to tell you the dangers of the crap they're promoting? So where's the credibility gap? With the Liberty Beacon? Or with the FDA? The USDA? The CDC? Where's the credibility gap here? I'm standing in front of you, challenging you to research everything I say and disprove it, or challenging you to do more research and educate yourself. And they're hiding these facts so that it takes people like Paula, myself, anybody involved in the Liberty Beacon Project or the anti-GMO movement to dig these facts out of the ground, and they're buried so deep that it takes a concerted effort to find them and ferret them out. So understand, as far as I'm concerned, as far as the Liberty Beacon Project is concerned, the government has zero credibility when it comes to protecting you and me from these poisons. Zero. None. Nada. Funny words again, Paula.
Quite a few, but I didn't count. 0, none, nada, 3 on the last.
Okay. There is a link after this first section. And basically that link leads to information that we gleaned from or articles that we found to be credible and contain additional links. And this one is called GMO Scandal, the long-term effects of genetically modified food on humans. And I don't mean 90 days, which is all Monsanto was required to do. 90 freaking days. You don't get cancer in 90 days. So each and every one of their research projects is going to come up and say GMOs don't cause cancer. Of course, you blithering idiot. Because cancer's not going to show up in your tests or your blood tests or your skin test or your cellular research in 90 freaking days. But after 3 generations, oh, wait a minute. Has anybody out there who has done any, even the most minute research or digging into the French and British studies on the rats where they show golf ball, and I do not exaggerate, I just say things loudly, golf ball sized tumors on these rats? Do you think they got golf ball sized tumors in 90 days? If you do, then I'm giving you way more credit for intellect than you deserve. And I don't believe anybody who is intent on listening to a show like this is an idiot. I give you all much more credit than that. Let us continue. What is not so well known to the general public is the catastrophic influence these organisms have on our global biosphere. Let's recap that. The biosphere cleans our water, makes it drinkable, sucks up the CO2 we as human beings pile into the air by the megatons every year, and puts back oxygen. They regulate temperature. They regulate, they purify the soil. They give us food. If you collapse the biosphere, humanity can tuck its head between its legs and kiss its ass goodbye. We're done for. The biosphere is paramount to the survival of mankind. Without it, extinction is just a matter of time, and it wouldn't be long. This is the mechanism that allows life to flourish on this planet. It is in grave danger of radical, if not fatal, modification. How? Genetically modified plants are now common across the globe in the guise of crops modified to resist insects, pesticides, and other invasive influences. We've already talked about a corn that a bug eats, and when the bug eats it, it splits open the lining of its stomach. I use the word explodes because it gives you a much more realistic, or, I don't know, it gives you a better picture of what's happening to this bug. He's going to die. We also said that anybody who grows corn or wheat, anything that's genetically modified, in a farm belt area, like where I live in Montana, or anywhere across the breadbasket of this country, anybody who grows GMO crops is going to influence the natural farmer bordering him. How? Cross-pollination. Can you tell a bee, this is the difference between the corn in this field and the corn in this field? Don't go over there with the pollen. That's ludicrous. But yet, all of these genetically modified crops that are growing make it absolutely impossible for any farmer within the same vicinity to grow a purely natural crop. And once his crop is tainted by the GMO crop, then Monsanto sends their jackboots, and we talked about that last week. They actually hire paramilitary individuals to go onto these farmers' lands and enforce contractual and patent situations. That's the link is in the show last week. You can go to it or you can Google it. So this poor farmer is trying to grow a natural crop, and the next thing he knows, Monsanto's knocking on his door and saying, you can't sell your crop. And the farmer says, why? And Monsanto says, because now it's my crop. Now it's genetically modified. How is it cross-pollination? And that farmer goes broke or goes to court or goes to jail. So what the hell does a natural farmer do if to the right of him, to the left of him, or to the front of him, or to the back of him, somebody's growing a genetically modified crop? He's screwed. Well, now let's take that one step further. Okay? Let's talk about the biosphere. Do you think that cross-pollination stops there at the limit of a farmer's field? It doesn't. Don't you think there's wild wheat growing just about everywhere? Of course there is. Don't you think, and here's another thing that ought to scare the hell out of you, and Google this, because I don't have a lot of information in my articles on this, although one will come later. But if you have serious doubts about what I'm saying, Google this. Genetically modified trees. Trees that are softer so they pulp easier and they make paper easier and cheaper for companies that make paper. So do you think that these trees are not going to cross-pollinate with the surrounding forest? Of course they are. Do you think that by damaging the genetic structure or the biodiversity that this planet enjoys and what makes this biosphere so thriving, even though mankind keeps pushing at it and whittling away at it, it keeps coming back. But what happens when we have genetically modified by oops enough of the biosphere that it is self-perpetuating and there's not a damn thing we can do about it anymore? And there are scientists, Google it, who are screaming at the top of their lungs that the biosphere is being infected and affected at an exponential rate by the proliferation of GMOs, and we are fastly approaching, if we have not already reached the point where it is irreversible. And once that happens, it's just a matter of time. Again, this is number 2. It doesn't suffer the immediacy of number 1, which is perpetual warfare, where people start to lob nukes all over the place. But once you have destroyed the biosphere, extinction of the human race is inevitable. But wait a minute. Maybe it's not. Because we have an elite who have put together a seed bank north of the Arctic Circle so that, I don't know, let me take a guess. So that once the biosphere is destroyed and the vast majority of us die off, they can rebuild the biosphere. And they have seeds from all over the world on just about every single plant in existence. Why? Remember the topic of this series. Remember the topic of last week's show. You don't need a gun to cull the herd if you have GMOs. What do the Georgia Guidestones say? Let's revisit that one more time. And the Georgia Guidestones were put up by the quote-unquote elite, which we did a 7-show series on. It says the ideal population of this planet should not exceed 500 million. There are 7.5 billion of us, so 7 billion of us got to go somewhere. And if you're going to kill us all off, one of the best ways to do it is to collapse the biosphere. And if you're going to collapse the biosphere, you should be smart enough to make sure you've got enough seeds to restructure and rebuild that biosphere. Well, damn it, they do. Imagine that. All right. Okay, Paula, I need to calm down just a little bit. I'm going to blow my vocal cords out.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
No high blood pressure or nothing.
No, I'm
getting hurt.
For 59 years old, I'm very, very healthy, knock on wood. That's not the point. The point is I want to be able to talk tomorrow.
Oh, true.
Okay. But once planted, how do you stop the spread of this organism? Again, do you tell that bee, don't go from here to here? Because that's off bounds.
If they survive.
Which they're not. They're dying off in massive numbers. They're approaching extinction. Do you tell the wind, don't blow the pollen from here to here? And it's not just bees that pollinate, it's all kinds of insects. Butterflies pollinate. What's happening to the monarch butterfly? Anybody want to guess? Going extinct. one of the most beautiful natural occurrences this country has ever seen and witnesses on a yearly basis is the migration of the monarch butterfly. They're dying off. Give you 2 guesses why. And the first one doesn't count. Okay, again, once planted, how do you stop the spread of this organism or any GMO organism outside its realm? An issue Monsanto profits from. And we'll get into that later. Once released into the biosphere, how do you prevent the same mechanism that it was designed to kill the rootworms from killing another species of insect? Monsanto didn't design this with the genetic structure of the rootworm in mind. They did it by using its biology. What's to say there aren't other insects out there whose biology comes pretty damn close to the rootworm? So now we're proliferating not only the BT, biotoxin, capability throughout the wild, but we're also propagating the ability of these plants to kill off insects. Oh my God. Do you think Monsanto ever thought of that? If they did, every Monsanto field would be enclosed in a plastic frickin' bubble. They're not. Another species of insect, if it has anywhere close to the physiology that the rootworm does, guess what? And what if one of these insects that this biotoxin affects, that's built into every single cell of this genetically modified or engineered plant, what if this insect has a vital role in the maintenance of said biosphere? We think insects are pests. Wake up! Nothing in our biosphere has zero purpose. Nothing. Each and every insect, every microbe, every bird, every mammal, every
snake.
Yes, every reptile, every fish, they all have a part to play in the biosphere. How do you know which piece of this puzzle we can pull out without the whole puzzle falling apart? You ever played, what's the name of the game where everything's stacked up and you got to pull little pieces out of the tower, and, you know, the one who pulls the wrong piece out, everything collapses? What is it, Jenga or something like that?
Jenga or something.
Yeah. That's what we're playing here. We're going to pull the wrong freaking piece out, and it's going to collapse. And there are 820 something, because I don't know the exact number. I know it's over 800. 820 something world-renowned scientists screaming this at the top of their lungs. But Monsanto in their 90-day studies knows better than all of these people. Is anything more ludicrous to you? And our government backs them up, supports them, tries to give them legal immunity from prosecution, forces our poor mothers to feed their children from the time they are old enough to get their first formula, only genetically modified formula. We talked about this last week. Mothers on the WIC program are only allowed to use GMO formula. And we also stated and gave you a link showing that scientific research has been done proving that feeding infants, tiny little babies, GMO soy can either be fatal or lead to catastrophic health issues. But yet our government will only, and for anybody who doesn't know what infant formula contains, take a look at it. A lot of it's soy. And it's all GMO soy. And we know that that can have catastrophic health consequences. We know that. But our government apparently doesn't, because that's all we're allowed to give our kids if we're too poor to buy our own formula. Wake up! I'm stopping just short of saying this is premeditated murder, but not very short. Let's get back on topic. Through cross-pollination alone, it is impossible to prevent this eventuality, the destruction of the biosphere. Scientists from across the planet are now sounding the alarm concerning the infiltration of GMOs into the wild. And the biggest infiltration is trees. It's not the corn. You might find some wild corn, but not a lot. It's not the wheat. It's not the soy. You might find basically some of these in wild form, but not a lot. But there's freaking trees everywhere. Everywhere. And without trees, we die. It is the biggest mechanism other than the ocean itself for purifying the air we breathe and replenishing the oxygen. But yet, there are very large farms planted by paper companies and biotech companies of genetically modified trees. And again, how the hell do you keep them from cross-pollinating with any other tree in the area? There is no invisible boundary. There's no force field. This isn't Star Trek. It's not happening. Well, these scientists are sounding the alarm bell at the top of their lungs. Okay? And this is not something I'm making up. This is something you need to Google. Genetically modified trees. As a matter of fact, I can even give you the name of something you should probably watch. It's a video called The Silent Forest. Educate yourself. If nothing I say scares the hell out of you, this should. This should get you ranting, just like me, Paula. It should.
Well, it should.
The Silent Forest. I'm dead serious. Google it, look it up, watch it, or just plain Google genetically modified trees and their danger to the biosphere. Very simple to do. You don't have to take my word. You don't have to take the word of any of the research I've done or other people who have contributed to this project, the Liberty Beacon Project, have done. But we're not going to sit here and try and scare the shit out of you every week. We have nothing to gain by that but a total lack of credibility. And to date, after 11 shows, 10. This is the 11th. I have challenged anybody to anything I have said to prove it wrong. Paula, what's the running tally on challenges? How many have you gotten, would you think? Challenges to what I've said.
Oh, challenges to what you've said. There's a big 0. I don't need a pen and paper for that.
It's not because I'm smarter than you. It's because this is what I do. I dig and dig and dig. I put together an article, and from that article, which gleans the information I need to do a show, I do a show. The articles are here to give you a level of comfort. This guy's not blowing it out his ass. He knows at least something about what he's talking about. And if he's not willing to delve into it any deeper than what he mentions, the butthole continues to say, Google it. Okay. The next link you're going to see right below the general topic of the biosphere, genetically modified biosphere, is the evil of Monsanto and GMOs explained. Bad technology, endless greed, and the destruction of humanity. Yeah. When you see topics like that, they usually have my imprint on them. I'm not one for pussyfooting around. I call a spade, and if it's bad, I call it bad. And you're never going to see an article by me topicked, this might be mad, or might be bad, so maybe you should look at it if you have time. If not, don't worry about it. I'm never going to have a title like that. I want a title that's in your face. I want you to look at it and go, bullshit, I got to look at this. This guy's got to be off his rocker. That's the purpose of the title. Anybody who knows me from Facebook knows I never put a link anywhere. I don't put links up. Well, I put links everywhere, but they're always accompanied by a picture that catches your eye and at least a paragraph that grabs your brain. You see 10 to 50,000 links a day on Facebook. Why the hell should you look at one from the Liberty Beacon Project? Because ours stand out. They catch your imagination, they catch your audacity, they catch your intellect, and they catch your eyeball. Well, it's the same with the titles to these articles. So let's go on. By now, the third part of this triad of evil is rearing its ugly head. And this could be the most evil of all of them, in guise of genetically modified humanity. Those who would play God. This is not a new concept. Anybody who thinks it is, it's not. This research has been underway in thousands, and is today in thousands, and I'm not exaggerating, of large, small, it doesn't matter, corporate, national, government laboratories across the planet producing human animal hybrids is legal in the United Kingdom. I'm going to repeat that again. What am I going to say, Paula?
Oh my God, that's disgusting. Human hybrid
Google
animals.
It. Yes.
Oh God, that's
It's
disgusting.
legal to do this in the United Kingdom. And parallel research has been taking place in America for well over a generation. Some of this might have started back in the late 70s, early 80s, when the science was, to our knowledge, infantile. But for everything we're aware of, the government is at least 10 years ahead. Anybody who doesn't believe that, you're listening to the wrong show. Any technology you and I are aware of, our government is a minimum of a decade ahead of that. And in some cases, maybe a generation ahead. Okay. This has been taking place, and it is being funded for the most part by DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects. This is our government. Soldiers that can see in the dark, run for miles without tiring, or go for days without food or water. Do you think I'm kidding? I'm not. And why stop there? What about parents who wish their child to have certain traits? Say, enhanced intelligence or added physical prowess. Again, we run into the same issues of long-term study. What we modify today, who's to say it's not going to have a fatal effect on the genetic diversity of humanity that we won't even be aware of? How long do human beings live? Most human beings don't procreate until they're at least in their 20s. Nowadays, most until they're in their 30s. So we won't even have a clue until 30, 40, 50 years from now of the major oops we've made. Are these GM humans susceptible to diseases or maladies not suffered by us mere mortals? By genetically modifying them and their genome, do we make them susceptible to things you and I are immune to? We haven't got a clue. Will this fatally contaminate the future gene pool, leading to an extinction event? Anybody who's not aware of, and excuse me for the sniffling, but I told you, it's very cold up here, and I seem to
Yeah.
have a perpetual sinus infection. But anyway, will this fatally contaminate the future gene pool, leading to an extinction event? Anybody who doesn't know what an extinction event is, we had one 20-something million years ago when an asteroid slammed into the Earth and raised enough dust, as scientists guess from what they see, to block out the sun and kill off most of the plant life and most of the animal life, including 99% of the dinosaurs. Supposedly, some of the species left today have evolved from the dinosaurs. Okay, that's fine. But this used to be a planet dominated by that species. That's an extinction level event. Are we creating one ourselves through the use of GMOs? Whether it's by modifying humans, whether it's by modifying the biosphere, whether it's not by eating foods that will eventually make us sterile. Don't forget last week we talked about the government funding a corn through a biotech company called Epicite, and I gave you that to Google it, that whose sole purpose, just like BT was to pop the guts of bugs, the sole purpose of this corn was to cause sterility in human beings. And we don't even have the right to know if we're eating that corn. But yet, the sterility rate in this country is soaring. The sterility rate of farm animals is soaring. Our sterility rate is soaring higher and quicker than any other country on the face of the earth. We are the most GMO'd society on the planet. Gee, how far does coincidence go before it stops being coincidence and starts being a fact? I'm calling it a fact. The debate over the genetic engineering of the human species has been a heated debate since scientists initially wrote about the future. Not as it will be, but as it could be, and as they perceived it should be. The human race thrives in large portion due to its ample diversity. We're all different. I don't care, even twins are different. We as humans generally find this attractive and liberating, that we are each unique in our personage, with very few to none containing the same balance of intellect, appeal, or physical prowess that exemplifies that uniqueness. I don't want somebody looking, talking, walking, acting, jumping, spitting just like me. I don't. Because now I'm no longer unique. Well, what if the government decides it wants an army of clones that can all see in the dark, march for days without food and water, don't get tired, blah, 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 blah? Are they also going to be sterile, or will they be able to procreate? And once they do, have we destroyed our diversity? There are some scientists who would say it would have to. Never before in the history of mankind have we released so many dangerous mechanisms untried and untested on humanity. When I say untried and untested, I spit in the face, not literally, figuratively, of anybody from our government or anybody from a regulatory commission or anybody from a biotech company that says a 90-day study is enough to prove anything. Is there anybody in this audience that believes 90 days is enough to prove anything? Have you ever heard of a golf ball-sized tumor growing in a rat that's only 3 times the size of a golf ball to start with in 90 days? Have you ever heard, okay, of a 100% fertile rat going sterile in 90 days? Unless you give him a drug that's going to force him into sterility. Not even Monsanto's corn has done that. It has taken between 2 and 3 generations for a generation to be 100% sterile. In the second generation, some were, some weren't. In the third generation, they all were. You can't find this out in 90 days. None of this is fantasy or hype. I just say it loudly because it needs to be emphasized. It needs to be delivered with urgency. If I sat here each show and said, never before in the history of mankind have we released so much dangerous mechanism, who the hell would listen for an hour? Who would take me seriously?
You would put me to sleep if you taught like that.
We would not have an audience. When something is evil, it needs to be delivered with exuberance. Otherwise, how can you believe for 1 second that I believe what I'm saying? None of this is fantasy or hype. None of it. And the research showing the facts is readily available. I provide it to you. The Liberty Beacon provides it to you. Google will provide it to you. Bing will provide it to you. I'll give you the key phrases and constantly say, Google it. I mean it. And this is available in vast quantities for those who wish to pursue it. If you don't, you're listening to the wrong show. Those who would perpetrate this madness do so at the possible and by some scientists the guarantee peril of humanity. But this doesn't hinder them. They continue forward. Attached to this, well, there's also a link to the story I was telling you about the 800 plus scientists who say the global GMO experiment needs to stop. This is one I want you all to look at. This provides huge credibility to the story that GMOs are freaking poison. Now we've got 3 minutes left, and I have a story attached to my story called U.S. Army Super Soldier. Genetically modified humans won't need food or sleep. Gee, didn't we discuss that? I want you all to read through that if you can, and attached at the bottom of that is a YouTube video called Transhumanism. Oh, gee, mixing human DNA with animal DNA.
Where have I heard that before?
Something we discussed today. So again, this is about credibility, my friends. This is about you looking beyond what I say. If you never believe me, I will not be upset. As long as you go prove me wrong or prove I'm not wrong. I talked about 800 scientists. There's your link. I talked about super soldiers and genetic modification. Here's your story, and the links are in it. There are active links in that story, the blue letters. And if you look at the bottom, there's a link to Natural Society that you can go right to the original story and get more links. And below that is another video about transhumanism, the crossing of the animal and human DNA. Nothing I spoke about today did I pull out of my butt. And if you're not scared, if you're not concerned, if this doesn't bother you as much as by the tone of my voice it is obviously bothering me, you're listening to the wrong show. We're talking about genocide. Is it intentional? My opinion and my opinion only. Yes, it is. Because these people aren't stupid. They know everything that these independent scientists are coming up with. They've known it all along. To say they don't know it means that some of the most powerful and richest companies on this planet are populated by a bunch of morons and idiots, in which case they never would have become the most powerful and richest corporations on the planet. And that's it for today. Next week, we will continue with GMOs, a direct path to extinction. And Paula, thank you so
Yes,
much for tolerating me for yet another week.
it's always a pleasure. I know we got started just a little bit late, but thank you
if you
so much for
if you
all
have
the
any small,
articles and stuff. People don't realize that you're busy 7 days a week, and you really
I
work
love to
hard
do
to
it.
put this together. And so we really appreciate it here at Awake.
I enjoy doing it simply because it has to be done. And this is how I decided I'm going to spend the rest of my years. I'm 59. I'll be doing this until they shut me up or the Supreme Being does, one of the two. So we'll talk again next week. And Paula and everybody listening, thank you so much for tolerating me. And please understand, I'll never lie to you. I'll just say things very loudly. Good night.
Good night, Raj.